Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Colin and I'm an English teacher working in Tokyo. In this video I want to talk about some foods that I miss from the UK. The supermarkets in Japan are great, but they're very much focused on Japanese tastes. So today I want to talk about 10 different food items that are difficult for me to find at Japanese supermarkets. So the first one I want to talk about is bread. Yes, I can buy bread at the supermarkets here, but in the UK, bread is a really important part of the diet. So if you go to the supermarket in the UK, the bread aisle, the aisle of the supermarket with all the bread is huge. Whereas in the Japanese supermarket, it could be very, very, very small. So that's one difference. The variety of breads that are available is very, very different. So at my local supermarket, most of the bread is white bread. Very few breads with seeds or grains. Whole wheat bread isn't really popular here. So that's one thing. The other thing is the size of the loaves of bread. So a loaf of bread is a sort of standard measurement of bread, a loaf of bread. But in Japan, what you find is that you get smaller loaves. So usually a loaf of bread in the UK, I think would be, let me think, is it 800 grams? I think I want to say it's 800 grams for a loaf of bread. And that's quite a big loaf of bread. That will last, even last a family several days. But the breads you find here, usually it's much smaller loaves of bread, often with the ends cut off, which is a shame because that's one of my favorite parts of the bread, just the end part. So that's a big difference. I've got used to it now, but when I first came out, it was a big problem for me. So bread, something that I miss. Another food that I often miss or crave is breakfast cereal. Breakfast in Japan, people don't really have cereal. I guess with cereal, there's a lot of milk in cereal. And Japanese people don't eat so much milk compared to people in the UK. And I think as a result, the range of cereals that you can buy is quite narrow. So I would usually have some kind of fruit and fiber cereal in the morning when I'm in the UK. But here you are really, really limited in what you can find. I do live quite close to a Costco, so I can go there and I can find some different types of cereal sometime. But in your standard little Japanese supermarket, you're very, very limited. There's a few companies who produce cereal, but it's not very close to the kinds of cereal that I'm used to back in the UK. So bread and cereal, and you see a breakfast theme going on here. The next food I want to talk about is peanut butter. Now this is kind of surprising for me because obviously America has had a huge influence on recent culture in Japan, and I would have expected peanut butter to be more widely available in Japan. You can buy peanut butter at supermarkets, very small tubs of Skippy. I think Skippy is the brand, peanut butter, but they're really small. I'm sure many Americans looking at those would just laugh at the size of these, because in America you're gonna get a big pot of peanut butter, not just a little thing. So not easy to find, and certainly variety, very little variety. Again, there's all kinds of different variations on peanut butter, not just your standard Skippy peanut butter. So for me, I love peanut butter. and I would have peanut butter every day if I could, but it's not so easy to get here. The next one I think is quite specific to British people, and that is baked beans, specifically Heinz baked beans. And it's funny, when I go back to the UK, I remember how important baked beans are as part of our diet. It's just a nice kind of easy extra to put on the plate with your meal. The classic fry up or full English breakfast, as we would call it. Baked beans is part of that, but it's a very common addition to any lunch or dinner. But in the supermarkets here, cannot find baked beans at all. Again, that's something that I would have to get from Costco. But that's a big one, especially for British people, I think you'll find. The fifth item I want to talk about is potatoes. And again, going back to the UK, specifically Scotland, I think Scotland and probably Ireland is probably the same, but potatoes have been a big part of our diet for a long time. And so I'm used to having a wide variety of different types of potatoes, different sizes, different flavors of potato, and they change throughout the year. So that's something that is again very limited in range. You have maybe 2 or 3 types of potato at most. Sometimes you might only have 1 type of potato. But for me, I'm used to getting lots of different varieties. And specifically, I remember in Scotland there being some kind of unique Scottish varieties of potatoes which are delicious. So that's a big one as well. In the UK and specifically Scotland, potatoes are a fundamental part of our diet, but the variety again is lacking here. Number 6 is Branston Pickle. Every time I go back to the UK, you can guarantee that I will pack a little jar of Branston Pickle, maybe 2 jars of Branston Pickle, and take that back with me. And this pickle is, how could you describe it? I usually use Branston Pickle on sandwiches. So I would have a ham and cheese sandwich, and I would put some of this pickle on the sandwich. And it's a kind of well, you know what pickles are. It's kind of this acidic, kind of tangy flavor that I just love. And you can't buy it here. Interestingly, the company Branston Pickle, it's owned by a Japanese company. Why they don't sell it here, I don't know. I'm hoping that one day they will start selling it here. If anybody who works for that company is watching this video, why don't you sell Branston Pickle here? But definitely every time I go back to the UK, I always bring 1, maybe 2 jars if I have space back. And that usually lasts me a long time. I'm usually very, very careful with it. I don't use it too quickly because it's so precious to me. Number 7 is Indian curry. Curry is very popular in Japan. Again, if you go to the supermarket, you can usually see quite a large range of curries. But curry is a really important part of the British diet these days. India was part of the British Empire, so British people going to India, they learned about Indian food, they enjoyed Indian food, and they brought Indian food back to the UK, and it became popular in the UK. People from India, Bangladesh came to the UK and opened restaurants. And now, even in small towns in the UK, you'll find Indian restaurants. There's areas in London, there's areas in Manchester where you have a whole street with just, I would say, Indian restaurants, but many Indian, Bangladeshi, Pakistani restaurants all down this street. So curry is very important for people in the UK, and the kind of Japanese curry is good. I enjoy it. I like going to Go-Go Curry and Koko Ichiban, those kind of Japanese chains. I enjoy those very much, but again, the range of flavors that exists in Indian curry is just much wider. So some people like a masala, some people like a vindaloo, some people like a korma or whatever. There's so many different types of curry, and I miss that variety. I miss that choice. So that's a big one for me. Number 8 is something called fruit squash, or you might hear fruit cordial. And basically this is a highly concentrated fruit juice. So basically you'll have a little kind of bottle of this juice, and you will pour just a little bit into a tall glass, a very little bit, and then you will top it up with water. So you get this kind of diluted fruit juice. And it's really convenient. It's really convenient because you don't have to refrigerate it. This concentrated juice is fine just in the cupboard. You don't have to have it in the fridge. And it's just makes it easier to drink a lot of water, because you just have this little splash of this cordial or this squash, and you have a kind of tasty, refreshing drink. I used to drink a lot of this when I was a kid, and as an adult I used to drink a lot of this, but I've never seen it here. Not quite sure why, but that's something that I every time I go back to the UK, I remember, oh okay, yeah, I remember this. This is something that I had quite a lot, but difficult to find here. 2 more to go. Next one is ale. Ale. So beer is hugely popular here, but the beer tends to be more like a lager style. So you're thinking about beer that is very fizzy, and that's fine. I enjoy that on a warm day. It's nice to have a couple of beers like that. But typically when I'm back in the UK, I don't drink beer like that. Given the choice, I would choose to drink what we call an ale. And these usually have less fizz and are perhaps a bit more maybe malty in their flavor profile. So it's a little bit, I don't know, a little bit more kind of mellow in the experience of drinking it. And in the UK, many pubs will have 3 or 4 ales, and very often local ales. So small breweries, and they produce beer basically for the local area. So it's quite interesting when you go to a pub and you'll see different types of ale from local breweries. So that's quite nice. And yeah, usually when I go home, one of the first things I do is have an ale in a pub somewhere. So that's a big thing for me as well. The last thing I want to talk about is chocolate. Chocolate is not so popular here. I would say. I think on a daily basis, people in the UK would probably eat some chocolate. A lot of people would, at least. And it can come in different forms. It might be a bar of chocolate. It might be a chocolate biscuit. But people are going to have chocolate at some point in the day, probably. Things may have changed. Maybe these days people are more health conscious, I don't know. But again, the variety of chocolate that is available. So if you go into a newsagent's, for example, and you see the section, so the equivalent would be a convenience store here, I guess. But if you go into a newsagent's, usually they will have a large area, a really large area with lots of different chocolate bars. I have my favorites. I like a Lion bar. I like a Boost, very nice, and probably my favorite is Double Decker. So these are big bars of chocolate, lots of sugar. But those kind of things are difficult to find. You can usually find Snickers in the little convenience stores here. They're quite widely available. But very often it's just a small bar, not even like what I would call a full-size bar. Usually you just find a small one. And sometimes they're little bags, small sort of packets of sweets, sort of not mouth size, bite size pieces of chocolate. And they're quite nice, but nothing compared to the variety that you would have in a newsagent in the UK. It's not a healthy thing, it's probably not a good thing, but it's really nice to go in there and just have such a wide selection to choose from. And related to this would be biscuits. So the chocolate biscuits like penguin biscuits or caramel wafers, which is a favourite of my wife and me. I enjoy them both. Lots and lots of different types of biscuits, which is nice in the afternoon with a cup of tea for our afternoon snack, or mid-morning as well. It's a popular time to snack. So those are 10 things that are difficult to find here, but I enjoy when I'm back in the UK. If you found this video interesting, thank you very much for watching to the end. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this with a friend if you found it interesting. Comment below about foods that you think you would miss if you went from your home country, or any foods that you tried when you were in the UK, for example. I'd love to know what your experiences are. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.